Let's go ahead and get started with this month's consulting topic webinar. So we are focusing on shipping this month, and Kyle will run through a couple of different ways that shipping ties into control and Shipment Explorer, and he'll touch briefly on the FedEx Ship Manager and UPS World Ship and some of the capabilities there. So I'll go ahead and let Kyle take it over.
All right, well, thank you everyone for coming. So basically today's topic, we just want to do a quick overview of how shipping is handled in the system. A couple versions back, I want to say kind of mid 4.6, we actually reworked the way the shipping is done. So rather than shipping being part of the company tab, shipping was broken out into its own set of tabs and lets you do a lot more with that now. So let's go ahead and run through a quick order just to kind of get us started. So we'll just throw a quick print onto here. And whatever, obviously the item that you're using really doesn't matter. We're going to focus on the shipping part. So just going to get 2 quick items on here for our test examples. Okay. So with that, I'll go ahead and say we'll do that for test company. So within the order, there is a tab for shipping now. So all the shipping information can be kind of relegated to one tab. So we click on that, and the first thing to note, at the very top you have a couple different options. You have do not ship, and then customer pickup, customer will take possession. Those 2 sub-options, those are more just for internal information. The main thing there is the do not ship, the ship everything in one shipment, and ship in multiple shipments are your main options there. So obviously do not ship is just saying that you're not going to ship anything. So no shipments are created. If you go to do your packing slip for shipments, nothing will show. It's just you're not shipping the job. Ship everything in one shipment does exactly that. It takes everything that you had created on that particular order, pulls it onto one shipment. So I can look down here and see wide format print, 5 and 10, shipping it to test company, shipping it to the contact there, and some more other information. And we'll go through all those additional fields here in just a moment. So we have it, so that's it. Ship everything in one shipment just pulls in one shipment and automatically says you're shipping everything on that order. So we're going to set it back to do not ship to remove the shipments. And then we have one last option, ship in multiple shipments. So that's going to be, if you have, in this case here we're doing 5 and 10 prints, but if you're going to do that job for one company, but you're going to ship it to multiple different locations, so one person's ordering it, but you're shipping it to multiple different locations, you can actually say ship in multiple shipments, and then that will add a shipment, and down here default to 0s. So I can tell it to this first location, we're going to ship 5 and 5. So then I still have 5 left. So with that, I can go here and I can clone the shipment if I want to kind of pull in the same information, or I can just hit add to add a brand new shipment, which will be SAB. And that's how the system kind of knows what shipment we're on, is that. So going here, I can see that we have quantity this shipment, we're going to do 5 to that location. So we're going to ship the last 5 items at a different time, or I could ship it to a different place altogether, and we'll get into that portion next. The last thing on this is to take a look at your other shipments. If you take a look here, there's a bit of a triangle that you can click here that minimizes the shipment and shows me all the shipments on that job. So I can see there, shipment SAA and then SAB. So those are the 2 shipments that we have for this one job. So let's go ahead and dive into the options that are on there. So we're going to set back to do not ship, and then ship everything in one shipment, just because it's a little bit easier to play around with. So the default option that the shipment will default to is always going to default to you're shipping it to the customer that had ordered it. So the company there is the customer. You can change the shipping contact, and the contact is just a different person at that particular location. And then you have option 2, select a different address within that company. You can always go and if you have a different, if you're shipping it to that company but you're shipping to a different address, you can pull the address drop down here and do a new address. So you can give the address a name, so it's going to be their and you can tell it to do this as a one-time use, so you're not going to save it to the system, or you can uncheck that and it will actually save that address for you to use on that company later. So that creates a different address that we're going to ship to, but it's still part of the same company. And then obviously I can also go and adjust the phone number, the email, and the notes about that shipment. A lot of times you'll have it where one company orders it, but they want to ship it to another company. So if I go here and I select third party, that opens up the company selection. So you have two things that you can do within this. I can go here and click on the search button here, and we can pull up another company within the system. So now we're shipping it to Sunshine Signs, and the contact that's at that company, and the information for that company now is pulled up as my shipment. The last option that you can do is, let's say a lot of times a company will order it and they just want to drop ship it to a customer that isn't really a customer that you have, it's just someone that they want to ship to that you're really never going to do business with directly. What you can do is you can go here and say, under the company, you can actually type in, oops, I can type in a company name that I want to ship it to and then hit tab. So shipping address not found, and we'll come up with this. Company does not exist. Would you like to create a company or use this company for this order only? So I can say one-time use and then fill in the company, the contact, their address, and it will save that address to that particular shipment. So now we don't have that company in the system, but whenever we do our packing slip and stuff, it's going to show that as the shipping address for this particular order. So that's the main, obviously that's the most important parts of this, is the actual address portion. Then you have some additional information that you can fill out. It's just used for internal use, mostly for information, but you can fill it out. You have the carrier and the service. So several different carriers, so FedEx, and then services, and I'll show you in just a moment. You can actually edit these lists and add in additional carriers and additional services. Those are lists that you can control. We'll look at that in a moment. Cost, you have an estimated cost, so we think this is going to be $78. The actual cost will come over from a step that we'll get to here in just a few moments, which is there's actually a UPS and FedEx module that you can pass these shipments to, and it will write back the cost to this order. Packages, that again, that's just information purposes. Insured value, that's going to default to the value for the order itself. The ship due date is when we want to try to have this shipped by. So we want to have this shipped by the 28th. And then the actual ship date and the tracking number, again, those are pulled from the shipping program. Obviously, you can fill those in if you have that information. So if it's something that you've already shipped and you're just putting it here, you can put that information in manually. But that is stuff that will get pulled in from the shipping links. Back to the thing that I first mentioned here about the carrier and the service. If we go to Setup, System Setup, and we scroll down towards the bottom here, need to think of where this comes from. So I believe, let's see here. It's moved around a couple times, so I'm trying to remember. It's definitely within the system setup here. Just trying to remember. I thought there was a shipping section. That might be over here. Yeah, shipping. So it's under the orders, estimates, and service tickets, shipping methods, and carriers. So there's the existing carriers along with their services. So with that, you can go here and say, we're going to do a new, and let's say you have your own freight group. You can go here and tell it, my freight, give it a description, and then put in My Services. So you can make your own shipping options that would show up as part of the shipping and carrier portion of the shipment. Okay, so we're going to go back to the order, and let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and save this. Okay, so once we have that order in here, it will save that, so we have a shipment 1065, so the order number dash SAA, and that's the shipment for that job. So with that, you can always go and say print, and then the report that you're going to want to use most of the time is going to be the packing slip for shipments. And that's just the report. If you go run this, that'll be your report that's shipping to another random company, contact me, and has the different items that you put in there with the different quantities. That's going to have all the information for that shipment. Now with this, there is actually a couple tools that have been added recently to make this work a little bit better. If we go back to the setup here, on some of the newer versions of the system, we actually have a header section here. So the standard header is just what you see right there. It's the your regular company information. You can also tell it that you're going to ship it completely blind or ship it third party. So if I was to do blind, it takes and just gets rid of all the information related to you altogether and just doesn't even print a logo, doesn't print your information. You can make that packing slip be a blind packing slip. And then you have the option to also do third party, in which case then it'll look at the company that is set up back on the shipment section for ship from. So you can actually specify the ship from. So if you specify a different ship from and then use that third party option, you can have the packing slip display that you're shipping it from someone that is not you. So that is that's some of the basic information for putting in a shipment. So with that, there's one more tool that we want to cover before we start talking about some of the other screens here. So within the order, something that implementation will kind of help out with whenever it comes up, but the shipment information here doesn't actually adjust the pricing or the cost for you within the order. So if you add a shipment to the order, you still have to go into the items portion and add in the shipping line item to have a price, to have a cost that shows up against that particular order. So you still would have to add the shipping, and one of the things that we can kind of help you do down the line is there's a way that when you add the shipping item, that it would pull in the cost from those shipments. That is an implementation task, consulting task, so it is something that we can help you out with to set that up. The shipping item can be coded to account to pull in all the shipment costs, and that way you don't have to put in the cost yourself. But the main point there is the shipping item does still need to be added to the job to be able to charge the customer for the shipping. The shipping tab is mostly used just to get information for the shipment, for your packing slips and all that, but the shipping item is still important even with the shipping tab. Okay, so a couple of items to cover is now that we have the shipments in the system, you have several different things that you can do with those shipments. You have, if you do Explore, there is a specific Explore Shipments section. So that will show you all the shipments that are in the system, and you have lots of different ways that you can tweak this. So I can say, you know, I only want to see the stuff that hasn't shipped yet. So if it's already been shipped, we don't need to see it. So I can change it to give me only the items that haven't shipped. And then on the reverse side, I can go and give me everything that has shipped. So if I want to see everything that's kind of gone out, I can review it that way. And then just others, you know, I can search on a particular shipment number. I can search for if there's a tracking number that someone gave us, but I don't remember what the order it was for. I can search on the tracking number. I can search everything that shipped within a time frame or everything that is due to ship within a time frame. So just like any of the other Explorer screens in the system, you can search for any shipment in the system using this screen here. And the flip side of that is if you go to Reports, there should be a section here for shipping, and then you can do a pending shipments that will show you all the shipments that haven't yet been shipped, and then a report to give you all the orders that have shipped within a time frame. So it gives you something a little bit more formal that you can run. So pending shipments, a couple different options that you can play around with there to set those up, group it by carrier, group it by the due date, the company. lots of different options that you can control to run this report and give you something a little bit more formal. And I probably should have messed with my date range a little bit more. So ship due date was between, so I'll just say all. And there we go. So those are all the shipments that are pending, grouped by carrier. So here's all the shipments that don't have a carrier set, the ones that are shipping through FedEx, through UPS. So this is a report that you can use to kind of see everything that's pending in the system for shipping. And on the flip side of that was under the reports, shipping shipped by date, this will give you all the items that have shipped within the time frame that you specify. So 2 reports to kind of review the information for shipping in the system. Okay, so as far as shipments go, that's kind of the basics of entering in a shipment and the different reports, how you can kind of look up the shipments and the different importance of those. So the next 2 tasks that we want to talk about are a little bit more advanced. So this, we just covered the basics. Those are really the main things that you need to know to use the shipping. The next 2 items are really just kind of, they're cool to have the option to use. So the first thing is we have integration with UPS WorldShip and FedEx Ship Manager. That is something that I believe is, I would have to double check, but I believe that is actually part of the system now. So to have that set up, you would have to contact our tech support team, and what they'll do is they'll help you create the links between the 2 systems. And it's really, once the links are set up within the FedEx and UPS, you can go in and have that. So integration, they would create a series profile, in which case then, if you go and say like clear fields, you'd be able to enter a lookup number within UPS and FedEx. I'm not sure if this is linked up to our system, but let's see. So, okay, so it was linked up to a different system that had the same order number, but as you saw, you just type in the shipment number, and the system will read the shipments that are on that particular order and load in that information. So it loads in the contact, the company, the address, if the address exists. All the information that was part of that shipment will get loaded in. So then if I was to process the shipment, it would write the tracking number and the shipped date and the actual cost back to the order. So that information gets written to the order so you don't have to update it yourself. So it is actually a really useful feature, but like I said, it does, all you have to really do to get that set up is contact our tech support team, and they'll go through and help you create the links between the 2 systems, at which case then you can start using them. And it is only those 2 programs, so it's the actual FedEx Ship Manager and the UPS WorldShip programs. I don't believe it will go with the website because the website doesn't really have an executable that can connect into your database from. So it is the 2 programs themselves. One of the last little neat tricks that you can do with the shipping is a lot of times customers will have a ship list. So they'll send you a list of 5, 10, 15 addresses that they want to ship their stuff to. So obviously you can enter those in manually, but it will take a chunk of time to do that. To fix that, we actually have an option here for import addresses. So you can import a shipping list of different addresses that you're going to ship to. And for that, we're going to jump to the wiki real quick. So if we go to the wiki, which is control.seriouswiki.com, if we go to Control How-To Guides, and we go to the very end of the page, there is a section of how-to guides for the shipping tab. And one of the articles here is how to import addresses. The main reason I like to pull up the wiki article and talking about this is this has all the different rules that you need to do the import. So it has, here's your import file, here's all the different columns that you want to have, and it shows you which ones are required. So if it's required, it would have a star next to it, so it has all the fields that you need to do the import, and even better, it has a sample import file. So you can go here and right-click and save target as sample import file. We'll save that to the desktop. And we'll give you a sample file that you can kind of see how it's set up to do the import, at which point then, if I went back to our control, And I'm going to clear out our shipments. And then let's go ahead and say we're going to import addresses. I can select that file. And you can tell it, there's information you can set. So you can tell it to do the default item, the default quantity, the carrier, the service. So you can set defaults within that import. And then you can tell it to do it one time, so you're not going to save those companies. So kind of like we set up earlier, where you can do a one-time use on those addresses. You can do the same thing and make sure that it doesn't save those to the system. At which point, then, if I click OK, it's going to ask you to do a backup. Typically, we would go ahead and advise that you do a backup. It's a safe thing to always do. We're going to go ahead and say no here. Import complete. And if we take a look here, second, something, okay, there it goes. So that imported 4 different shipments on there, because those are what were on the order, and it has the different address, and it has the different item information. So 1 item going there, 2 items going there. So it imports that particular shipping address. So you can use that as kind of a template to create your own shipping list, and that way you can kind of make sure that you can import your own list of addresses if you have a customer that gives you a list of locations that they want to ship to, and not have to enter them all in manually. And I think as far as the shipping goes, those are really the main tasks. We touched on the different fields within the shipment, the different meanings between a ship in one shipment and ship in multiple shipments. We look at the Explorer screen, the FedEx and UPS mapping, and the different reports that are tied to the shipping. So that's really the main functionality between using the shipping tab within the system. So we do have a number of questions that have already been asked. We'll go ahead and go through those, and then we'll go ahead and pick up through the next, then we'll start opening up the floor for any additional questions about shipping. So the first question was asking about, does it only work for U.S. customers, or does it apply to Canadians, or really any other customer? And really, the shipping, it doesn't matter where you're at, because you're just telling it the address of where you're shipping to, and it's just the link, the UPS and FedEx links are wherever you're running it from. So typically, the shipping can really be done through anywhere. So it's not relegated to just U.S. It can be used in Canada, and it can be used in Australia. The shipping can be done using no matter where you're running the system from. So the location where you're at really shouldn't hinder using that shipping tab. The second question, so the next question is about kind of handling pickups and deliveries, and I'm going to assume that's kind of in addition to the shipping as well. So you have a job that has both shipments and has pickups within the same job. One of the things that you can do within the shipping is you can do the shipment, and under the third party, you can actually go to the company list here. Actually, not that. Where is it at? I think it's under address. If you do address and then choose other, you can actually go up here and say store addresses, and then that's going to list your store and your store name. So then you can select the store address for your store, and it's going to change it to kind of ship to your location, so to speak. So we're kind of telling the system that we're shipping it to your location. If I say back to the customer link and then do that, I think that's, let's try that again. I have lots of shipments on this company. Store addresses, shipping. Okay, I guess that might be the different company name in the system. But that's typically how I've always handled it, is you kind of just tell it that you're going to ship it to your store location, so that way on the packing slip it would be included as part of that. There was a question about where the packing slip was again. That's just once you have an order saved, you can just print the packing slip directly from the menu over here. So on the order, you just pull up the order, go to your print menu, and there's your packing slip for shipments. Now, if you do notice, there is a print button next to each of the shipments on there, and you can click on that button to print the packing slip for that individual shipment. So I can do the packing slip for just SAC by clicking the print button on the shipping tab for that shipment. But if you wanted to get a packing slip for everything, that's the print menu, packing slip for shipments. So this next question, unfortunately, this one can't be done. Your shipments are still tied to an individual order, so I can't really say that we're shipping this job and X job as part of the same order. Now that you can go and edit one shipment after you ship it, and kind of put in the tracking number of the other order that's being shipped if you're shipping them together, but the system is going to treat each of the shipments tied to each individual order. So I can't really say on order 1065 I'm shipping items for order 1064. So they still have to be tied to the particular order that they're under. But like I said, you can edit the job after the fact and paste the tracking number into that shipment. So that way you can get the information to the correct shipment after the fact. This is 100 right now. This is currently tied to just Serious Control. I haven't really worked with Serious Online, so I can't really comment on that. That's a completely different program, and the functionalities are a little bit. The functionality between the two are different. So this training is dedicated to just using it with Control. Serious Online would have to be a different question for a different day. I wish I could demonstrate UPS World Ship. We actually do not have UPS World Ship in here, but it's 100% the exact same as FedEx, where basically you would load it up, and then in UPS it has a lookup field, kind of like within FedEx, where you have a clear fields and you have a lookup number. It's the exact same way, where you would type in the shipment number -SAA, and that's how that would work within UPS. So I don't have UPS on this computer, but the functionality is the exact same as FedEx.
It's all loaded in.
Someone's asking, I've not heard, they're asking if Perlator Courier will be added to the system. I've never heard of that before. So I don't know, is that is that like another shipping program, or is that, okay. So it may not be added to the system, but if it works similar to the FedEx and UPS, it's something that we can use some implementation time to help you map up, because it's not a system default option, but we actually went through and had a number of customers use Indicia, which is actually the United States Postal Service, which has their own set of imports. So I imagine within that Perlator, as long as they have a import function and can an interface with a SQL database, we could probably do the exact same thing. Like I said, it'd probably take some practice, but I imagine we probably could do something real similar to that with that system. Okay. The next question is manually mark a shipment as shipped. Also, there's a little bit of background noise. I'm sorry.
I'm working here because I told her that before. And I told her that we get it.
Well, the question is here, how to mark something manually shipped. All you would have to do for that is within the shipment, if we go into here, essentially, once you mark a shipped date on a shipment, so if I go here and tell it a ship date of 128 and save that, that's really all the system knows to know something's been shipped. So you can mark something manually shipped just by setting the ship date.
From her size?
Yes, she wants a different size.
Okay. All right. That's all I see in the chat program right now. So I've gone through all the questions there. Is there any other? Yeah, I'm aware there's a bit of background noise. I'm just trying to work around it. I apologize for that. But on that note, did anyone miss anything about the last few items that we went over? Do I need to go back over any of those? Okay. Well then, on that note, was there any other shipping items that anyone wants to go over? Any other shipping related questions? Okay. How I got from the shipping tab to the FedEx program? Basically, I just had it open at the bottom of the screen. So I just had it open. So you just, on your shipping computer, you would have FedEx and UPS running. So it was just open at the bottom. I just kind of had it preloaded. So, but yeah, so there's not really, you just, on your shipping computer, you just have your programs running and that's it, so they can run in tandem. Okay. Any other shipping questions? And obviously, you know, one thing that comes up, if you take a look at the packing slip and there's some adjustments that you want to make to it and stuff like that, all those reports can be customized, so you can contact our consulting department if you wanted to make some changes to the packing slip reports that are in the system or any of the other shipping reports in there. So like if you wanted to include the notes or something on there within the shipped by date report or stuff like that, we can make customizations to those reports through the regular consulting format. So, all right. Any other shipping related questions? Okay, so we got 2 more questions. Do you have to have WorldShip running on the same computer as Sirius? So the answer to that one is the shipping computer has to be able to access the Sirius network. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the exact same server, but it has to be able to access the computer that is running Sirius. So it doesn't have to be on the same computer, but it does have to be on the same network. So someone asked to setting up through tech support. No. So if tech support is setting up the shipping, that does not incur any costs against your consulting time, since it's a tech support related function. It does, you do have to be on tech support currently to do that, but it doesn't incur any additional costs. Now, however, if you want to change that, so like if you have some additional fields,
complete, like it's not on the report.
Right. Is there anything else that shipped with it?
Sorry about that. If you have some additional fields that you're wanting to map to, so like if you wanted to map a PO number or something that isn't part of the standard mapping, that does require some consulting time. So if it is done, if you do have any custom work to your FedEx and UPS mapping, that does use up consulting time, but the base mapping, that is just part of the regular tech support. So, okay, I hope that was able to answer the questions there. Do you guys have any other shipping questions? Got some good questions this time. Okay. Well, okay, there's a new one. That would be a WorldShip question, and I would not be able to answer that. Someone was asking if it was possible to have WorldShip run the end of day automatically. I don't know. I don't work with UPS or WorldShip enough. I can do the linking, I can do the integration, but I don't know all of the all the other little tips and tricks that those programs have. So the answer there is maybe, but I wouldn't be able to answer it. Okay, so there's a new one. Is there any way when you void a shipment that UPS or FedEx can update that in control? Since you're not really voiding the shipment, you're voiding the order, I think with that case you would still have to go through and you'd have to go through UPS or FedEx to kind of void the shipment after, if you had to void the order in the system. But really, I try to think of how that would work, because on that front, if you process it through FedEx and UPS, that's assuming that you've already kind of shipped it. So if you have an order in the shipment in the system that has a shipment, but you haven't processed it through UPS or FedEx yet, you really shouldn't have to worry about it, because oh, you're talking about, okay. Yeah, if you void the cost through, I haven't had that come up before, but I think, yeah, if you void the shipment in UPS and FedEx, you would have to go into the system and void out that particular shipment. I don't think UPS has any codes that actually pass that through. That might be something to research at some point. It just the question really hasn't come up with all the shipping stuff that I've done before, so so that might warrant some more research down the line. But yeah, at the moment, I think after you process it through UPS and FedEx, if you void it in UPS and FedEx, I believe you would have to go through and void it inside of Sirius, because what Sirius does is anytime that you process a shipment through FedEx and UPS, what it does is it kind of uses the fact that you're inserting a record to know when to update stuff. So like if you're changing an existing record inside of UPS or FedEx, it doesn't know that you're changing a record. It does, because the way that the mappings are set up is only through imports and exports, so it doesn't know anything. It wouldn't be able to recognize if anything was edited. So yeah, for the current time being, if you do have to make an adjustment, you would have to make that adjustment inside of Sirius, just because UPS and FedEx, they wouldn't have any way to talk to our system to say that a record has changed. It can only do on inserts of new records, because that's when it kind of sees, okay, you're processing this, pass it over to Sirius. But if you're just changing one, you're not really processing anything that would know to go over to our system. So for the time being, I think you would have to manually update those records inside of Sirius if you have to void a shipment. And I believe I want to say that's more of a just how the database structure is built, but that one's more just a guess. So I can't guarantee that answer. But I believe that might be the reasoning why. So, okay. Do we have any other questions? Yeah, so on that, so Casey just asked a question about being able to integrate USPS shipments, and that's actually, if we go to the wiki, so we go back to here, under the wiki, if we go back to the section here, there is, I'm trying to think of where this article is at. Okay, I'm actually going to cheat a little bit, and I'm going to go up to here and search for, let's see, USPS, because there's actually a wiki article here setting up USPS Indicia integration. So there's actually an article that talks about here's what you need to do to set up the information to work with Indicia. So it can do it. You just have to follow these articles to kind of set up the integration on your own, but it does support it. And this is why I believe the question that came from earlier about setting up the Canadian integration, it'd probably be the same rules. It's just something that would take some time, and we'd have to test it out to see if they had the same tools for database mapping and stuff like that. But since we can do it through Indicia, I don't see it being an issue. But that's so there's an article on the wiki that walks you through setting that up. Someone's asking progressive billing / percent complete. That is completely separate from shipping. That really doesn't have anything to do with shipping at all. But you know, tied to that, you can do a shipment that is only shipping a portion of the item, and then do another shipment later that is a second portion. So it doesn't tie to it directly, but you can have more than one shipment going to the same location. So that's kind of how you could handle that, is you can make two different shipments shipping at different times, going to the same location for the same item, handling that. So it doesn't tie to it directly or have any direct effects on it, but you can account for it by making multiple shipments to the same location. All right. Any other shipping questions? All right. We had some really good questions this time. All right, Kristen, I don't see anything else coming through. I believe we are set for the shipping stuff for today then.
All right, sounds good. Thank you for the discussion and all of your questions and for attending today's session. As a reminder, this is being recorded, so the full length of the webinar will be available on the basic training page of the customer website. And if you go to that basic training page, there's a section for in-depth webinars, which it's listed under, but there's also a really nice search feature. So you can go to the customer website, which Kyle is bringing up now. And if you go and use the search box on that page, you can type in shipping and be able to easily find it. So there's the search box, and there should be some videos up there already now about shipping. And yeah, there's the section for in-depth webinars, which will have a pretty lengthy history of ones we've done in the past. So definitely look for that early next week if you'd like to rewatch the section, and we will go ahead and conclude now. I don't see any additional questions coming through, so with that, we'll go ahead and conclude, and thank you everybody for attending.